One of the important things to consider when it comes to the AR, of course, is how you're going to make sure that you can control deviation as much as you need to in the situations you're going to use it to defend yourself. Now, traditionally, the front sight and the rear sight, this is an old style A1 type rear sight on a carrying handle combined with a fixed front sight post. This is your traditional sight alignment sight picture situation, just like you would have on a pistol or any other type of rifle. When you have your firing position, you're actually looking through this aperture, in which there is a larger one and a smaller one, which is going to allow you to be more precise with the smaller hole, of course, and a little bit faster with the larger hole that you're going to look through, and that's going to ghost out. This is a ghost ring type sight, and you're going to focus on that front sight post generally in the center of that circle. Again, that's the reason that the smaller circle is going to allow you to be more precise. There's going to be less deviation, less variance. And that's going to be your sight alignment sight picture. Put that over top of the threat, press the trigger, manage recoil, press, press, press until that threat stops. Now, while that may work really well in a situation where you're shooting at paper or you have plenty of time and of course you have high contrast inside of your home for rapid combat accurate shots, you probably aren't going to want to stick with the iron sights. My preference, and your preference, may well end up being this red dot sight. Not particularly this one, but some type of a low magnification or no magnification sight which electronically projects a holographic or red dot spot inside of your field of vision, which you're going to superimpose over the threat. This is going to be much easier to see. It's of course going to create its own contrast at night in a dark situation. That black post against this dark blue shirt, a gray shirt, a black shirt, it's going to be very hard to see. And of course it's going to be much faster, much more consistent for you, especially inside of that defensive situation in your home. Bad guy coming through the door, you can come up here, get that red dot, quickly and efficiently put shots on target. The red dot's a great option for a defensive AR. The other option, of course, is some type of magnified option. This kind of glass optic designed for more precise shooting at longer distances, appropriate for this type of gun. Again, this is a competition setup gun. You can see the heavy barrel, you can see the muzzle brake, the long barrel, and if you're going to reach out to 200, 300, 400, 500 yards with an AR, you're going to want this type of optic. Inside the home for a defensive situation, probably not your primary choice. Now, if we go back to the carry handle model, if we look at this original type AR-M16 type model, you can see that we don't have rails, we don't have any convenient way to take this red dot optic and place it on there anywhere. Now, we've already talked about the fact that you can add rails. Of course, adding rails on top of the traditional plastic handguards, not the best option. It's not going to be the most secure, it's not going to be the most consistent, but it is an option. The other thing we can see is a cantilevered mount, which allows you to put a piece of metal in here, attach through that hole. You're going to wind that down. It's going to be one point of contact that's going to come out and cantilever down and allow you to put an optic here. The advantage of having your optic low is that it's going to co-witness with your existing sights. Co-witness simply means that if your red dot goes down, the batteries, breakage, whatever it is, you don't have to change your cheek weld, your head position on the gun to be able to simply use your iron sights if you need them and if you can see them. Of course, traditionally you could also take an optic and place it up on top of the carry handle, but that's going to cause you to have two cheek weld positions. One up here to look through that dot, which is obviously is not as natural. Down here on your jaw, your lower jaw moves. That shifting, that inconsistency means that optic isn't going to be as useful for you under precision conditions. And then of course if you had to transition to your iron sights, if there's a hole, if there's a tube cut in your mounting option, you can actually still use the iron sights under that high red dot where you'd go from here down to here to transition to your iron sights. Not the best option, especially in that emergency situation where your primary optic goes down. So at this point, when it gets ready to be time to put an optic onto an AR, especially if you're going to spend the money to get a good quality one, you're going to take the time, effort, and energy to train, you may want to seriously consider a flat top AR. So at this point, we're going to look at the upper. We're going to be in a situation where we can very easily do this modification in terms of the gunsmithing that's involved. The hardest part here is simply spending the money to get the upper that has a flat top, maybe some rails, maybe a fore-end rail, and allow us to take this, the registered firearm piece, the part that we integrate with our primary hand, with our body, and with our cheek. This is 3 of our 4 points of contact here. In order to modify the AR to be as efficient as possible, we're going to want to go to something like this. Now, it may not be this exact configuration, but this gives us a flat top and gives us rails on the fore end. And of course, because these are all basically interchangeable from manufacturer to manufacturer, brand to brand, once we've found the configuration of the upper that we want, and we have a lower set up the way we want it, that's all it takes. Push those pins out, they're retained by the lower receiver, place them back together, push those pins back through, and we have what is practically an entirely different configuration of a firearm. But as you see, we don't have any optics at all now. We can, of course, use our intuitive ability to bring the gun up and just shoot with alignment, natural proprioception, use this as an extension of our body. And inside of a room, there's a door about 15, 20 feet from me. If somebody came through, I would not have any problem using this to defend myself, but we don't really have many options for maximum deviation control, protecting our family, worrying about bystanders, or of course shooting at a distance beyond that 5, 10, 15 feet as someone's charging at me. So I'm going to take the traditional top end, put it out of the way, and let's take a look at the iron sights. Just because we went to a flat top does not mean that we don't want to have iron sights on there. Now this particular firearm, red dot only. Red dots have come a long way in the last decade. I can remember when people said, oh, you don't want a red dot, they're not reliable, let's not use them. And of course, just about every military in the world now incorporates red dots, modern military anyway in the world incorporates red dots into their system, and all of the special operations, law enforcement, military, otherwise, use red dot. Competition shooters use red dots. Red dots are pretty reliable in my book, but I still think you're going to want to have some kind of a backup sighting system. So let's take a look at some of the options. There are a lot of different brands of iron sights, backup iron sights. A lot of them are folding. So what you're going to end up with is a situation where the optic actually is going to be primarily the red dot, but you will have iron sights on the firearm, and a lot of them will be folding. Situation where they're down, you can very quickly pick them up. They lock into place. When you're ready to put them down, you can depress a button, twist, pull, push, do something to lay that back down. And again, these are very easily attached to your firearm. We're going to put this up here somewhere on the front. Reach over here and grab this. Insert that in there. Going to start to get that hand tight. You can see this attaches to the rail very easily. Get my Allen wrench, lock that down. Of course, this is just going to be a temporary installation for a little demonstration purpose. You want to make sure that these are really tight if you're going to rely on these for your personal defense. And I'm going to take this rear sight, exactly the same situation here. We're going to push that down, be able to fold this flat, keep it out of the way of our line of sight. Now, one of the things that may be a little different on your rear sight installation is that you may actually have to open this up, get this charging handle out of the way, and slide that over the rail. Or you may be able to lay it straight flat down on there, depending on the different type of configuration of that backup iron sight or that rear sight. You're going to play that by ear, do what you have to do to attach it. Knowing how to take the AR apart, knowing how to take care of the AR, obviously this one's pretty dirty. We're going to need to clean the AR by disassembling it at least to this level. We're going to want to get some of that carbon off of there, make sure that we're ensuring as much reliability as possible. And we're going to want to be able to do that pretty quickly and pretty efficiently. And that may come into play when we're going to talk about modifications as well. So now, even without a red dot, I now have a viable set of sights on this firearm. So I've gone from a flat top configuration with nothing to now I've got my iron sights. I'm going to be able to bring this gun up, close one eye or leave both eyes open intuitively, look through that ghost ring, and get good deviation control with the iron sights. Now you notice this particular set of iron sights is pretty wide open on the front. That means I'm going to have less distracting me from just getting that front post onto the target very quickly and efficiently. So it's set up more for a defensive use. Again, you may have these up, you may have these folded down, push those buttons in, keep this more of a flat top. Now, of course, your primary optic in this situation is probably going to be some type of red dot, some type of electronic sight, like this one or like this one here. If you've taken the time, effort, energy, and spent the money to get the flat top upper to be able to be in a situation where you can use different type of optics, you're probably not just going to stop at fold down iron sights. You're probably going to use something like this. Now we can quickly and easily put this onto our long gun. We're going to want to make sure that we put this far enough forward that it's not going to affect our ability to pop these iron sights up when we need them. So I may even go forward one more notch on this gun, set that back into place, tighten this down. Now of course this is only one point of contact. So again, for maximum consistency, maximum durability and reliability, I may want to go to a mount with a red dot of this size that actually has 2 points of contact, or have this kind of an integrated mount that actually keeps much more of that optic in contact with the upper. But in this case, I can pop these open very quickly and efficiently, hit that knob, come up, I have my red dot. If I need them, I've got my iron sight backup. I can push forward here, Now, most people will recommend that you leave your iron sights up even with your red dot in place. Of course, they're going to ghost out. You're not going to see them, especially in that dynamic, dark situation. You're going to come up and see your red dot. If your red dot happens to be missing, you maybe want to close an eye and look for that front sight through that ghost ring. Of course, a lot of people will also say that we could leave that down and now use our optical tube in this configuration as our ghost ring. So now I look through and I actually see that front sight inside of this ring, and that gives me good deviation control also. That's going to be more precise. Thinking about how you're going to set your optics up once you've gone to a flat top is going to have a lot of time involved. You're going to look at a lot of different types of red dots. You're going to look at a lot of different types of backup sights, whether they're iron or these less expensive but still durable and reliable plastic ones that come from Magpul. You're going to be in a situation where you're going to have almost limitless options. Try out a few different things. Make sure you get something that's reliable, convenient, and efficient for you to use for your defensive AR.